a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Nancy Guitar. I'm really pleased to interview today's guest. She lives in Burnaby. She is a baker extraordinaire at Miss A's Cookies. She's also a creator and host of her own podcast, which is called, T21M. Ladies and gentlemen, Mary...
T21 Mum. Sorry.
What did
T21 Mum.
I know, and I'm looking...
T21M. It's all good.
I'm looking right at it. I don't know why I said M. Sorry about that. T21 Mum. Yes. Your name is Mary Cardle. Is it Cardle or Cardell?
Cardle, correct.
Cardle. Okay. So welcome. Welcome, despite the mistakes. They are never mistakes.
All good.
They're creative glitches.
There you go.
So tell me about your podcast.
Well, a few years ago, I started with a friend of mine called Ron. His name is Ron. We met on a rainy day at a Starbucks. I love to bake, as you mentioned, and he had attended one of my little, it was a indoor farmers market, and we just started chatting because we love to chat. And he always comes down when I do my little farmers markets or I'm fundraising through my cookies. And we started chatting, and he said, have you ever thought of doing a podcast? And this was, I think, back in 2018, I think it was. And I said, no, I thought about doing a blog, but I don't have time. He goes, well, I'll help you. I go, okay. Neither of us knowing what that really entailed. Thankfully, he has a background in media, so that was a big help. And like I said, we met one rainy day at a Starbucks in Burnaby, and we talked about what it would look like. And that was how T21 Mum was born. And yeah, this May will be our 5th anniversary, I guess, of our podcast. We're at, I think it's around 93 episodes. I'm really proud of it. And what it is, it's about my daughter, raising my daughter Ainsley, who's now 10. She has Down syndrome. And I started on this journey as a single mom by choice, and how that looked like, with raising my daughter who has Down syndrome and some additional needs. And it's been amazing. I've interviewed different experts. I've had guests on from all over the world, and just telling other people's inspirational stories, sharing their stories, and just learning all about Down syndrome.
Very good. Yeah. What I like in today's world, there's more. You see Down syndrome actors now, and it's really opened the world a lot, right?
Oh, most definitely. Like, I just saw the movie Champions, which stars Woody Harrelson, and there's a whole cast of people with intellectual disabilities, and a fair number of them have Down syndrome, which it was such a heartwarming and endearing movie. I absolutely loved it. So I highly recommend anyone to go and see it, and just to see how capable our kids are and adults are with Down syndrome.
Yeah. Absolutely. For a while, there was a reality show about people with Down syndrome. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
definitely. Yeah.
I enjoyed that, and I was sorry it ended, because it was really, really informative. Like how they are the same as everybody else. They have the same needs, the same desires as me or you or the next person, right?
Yeah, Born This Way. I loved that show. Yeah. It was great, and not really sure why it's not on. I think they had 3 seasons, which was really lovely. And it just shows what our kids are capable of, that, the world's their oyster, just like a neurotypical kid. Just because our kids might have some more challenges, or it might take them longer to learn things, they can still do all these things if their heart is set on it.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. And now you've also, like, within that set, you also talk about single parenting.
Yes, because I'm a single parent by choice. I found out at approximately 17 weeks that my daughter, who I didn't know it was going to be a girl. I was secretly hoping for a girl because I grew up with 3 brothers, but that my child would be born with Down syndrome. And as I think for most parents, when they find this news, whether it's prenatally or at birth, And I mean, it hurts my heart to say it now, but I was devastated. I thought,
Sure. Yeah.
my life is over. You know, I thought both of my parents have passed away. I don't have a lot of help. I'm on my own. And I just kept thinking, like, how much harder does it have to be? And, you know, I had a period where I really mourned what I was hoping I was going to get. You know, we're all hoping, we all say, I just hope the baby's healthy.
Yes.
But, you know, then when you're told that your child has Down syndrome or maybe some other disability, you know, your whole world kind of shifts, and you have to figure out, well, what's my life going to look like? And so I took some time to kind of really mourn what I thought it was going to be. And as I always like to say, I put on my big girl panties, I got reading, and I tried to learn as much as I could. And, you know, by the time she was born, you know, it was a celebration, and I felt I was ready. I mean, I don't think you're ever really ready to be a parent, but I felt I was as ready as I could be. So, yeah.
And, you know, when you think about like being a parent, as their children grow, they could become drug addicts or alcoholics or a criminal. Like there's all, the world is, you know, it's open to all kinds of things, right? Not always a good thing, but they're still our children, right? They're still our children.
Exactly. Yeah, they're still our kids, and you still love them regardless. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
You know,
100%.
when they do wrong, we don't like it, obviously, when they do wrong things, but
right.
happens. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your bakery or baking. Is it your bakery?
I wouldn't quite say it's a bakery. It's just, you know, in home, but it started, like, I've always loved to bake cookies. And one year, I think my daughter was about 2.5, and we were at the run up for Down syndrome. And it was my first year being there, and it was just me and my daughter. I didn't invite any of my family. It was, you know, I think she was only about 2.5 at the time. So I'm still kind of getting my feet wet in the Down syndrome world. And a mom I know, she actually won a pretty good prize for fundraising. And I thought, I can do that. I can bake. And so fast forward to the next year, a friend of mine, Maura, she was working at the farmer's market, and she always really took a liking, excuse me, to my daughter. And she had finally told me that her son had Down syndrome. And so obviously my daughter Ainsley and her had a real connection, and she, you know, said, hey, I can get you a free table at the farmer's market. And so I thought, great. So I baked and baked and baked, and I got so ready. I was so excited for this bake sale that I was going to have at the farmer's market. And then that day, it absolutely poured down with rain. It was horrible. Yeah. And I thought, I have worked so hard, and now it was the rainiest day on record that day for that year. But I went, I put out all my cookies. Thankfully I had a little tent, but it was so cold and wet. And then near the very end, a lady came up to me, an older lady, and we just briefly chatted. And everything was by donation. And she told me, I want 4 of everything and put them in separate bags. So I thought I might get maybe $20, maybe, right? But then she hands me 2 50s. And I had tears in my eyes. I said, that's a lot of money. It's just some cookies. And she told me, what you're doing is important. And I'll never forget that. I mean, this is someone I don't know. And then 2 days later, we went into our speech appointment at the Down Syndrome Resource Foundation, which is who we were fundraising for.
Oh, okay.
And it was for the run up for Down syndrome. And the executive director came out, and they all knew I was going to have a table at the farmer's market. And, you know, some of them had bought cookies ahead of time. And the executive director said, oh, I just want to thank you for your donation. I thought, well, I haven't made it yet, and it wasn't that much. I only made $500. And she said, you don't know, do you? And I said, no. What? And she said, well, the lady that you met at the farmer's market, she just made a $5,000 donation to your team.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. But it gets better. It gets better.
Okay.
And I don't, yeah, I don't know, like, if she, you know, because she was older. I found out later, I think she probably was in her maybe in her 80s at that time. I don't know if just she had a generous heart, or, she did tell me that I touched her, but I don't know if she had any kind of experience with Down syndrome, or maybe had a sibling or a child. I have no idea. But then we fast forward the next year, and I had submitted a story to a book called Gifts, and I got that when I was pregnant. Like when I had found out that my daughter was going to be born with Down syndrome, I phoned the Canadian Down Syndrome Society. And to this day, I don't know how they understood me, because I was crying so hard on the phone. But a week later, I got a book in the mail called Gifts. And there was short little stories from moms about their child with Down syndrome. And at this point, a year later, after this lady, Joan, had made this magnificent donation to our Run Up for Down Syndrome team, they had a call out for additional stories for the 10th anniversary, and my story was picked. It was only Canadian picked to be in the book. And so I sent her a copy on World Down Syndrome Day, which is March 21st, because it's the third month, and the 21st day, which represents the 21st chromosome. And which is what Down syndrome is, an extra copy of the 21st chromosome. So I sent her a copy of the book, and a little note. I said, I know you've always wanted to be private, but I hope you don't mind that I send you a copy of this book. And later that day, I got an email that said my fundraising goal had been met for the Run Up for Down syndrome that year. I thought, oh, okay, that's odd. Who made a donation? Well, this lady, Joan, she made another $5,000 donation to our team.
Wow. How awesome, eh?
And it was so awesome. And that was all just through cookies. And so ever since then, I have been baking, and I fundraise for the Run Up for Down syndrome. Our team is Ainsley's Army. And so anyone who ever wants cookies, I will make them a batch of any cookies that they like for $21, a minimum donation of $21. And 100% of all the proceeds goes to our team.
Very good.
And that's how it started. Thank you.
So cool. No, for sure. Now, where do you sell them? You said you sell them at a farmer's market, but in Burnaby. But where? What's the location if people want to go? Like,
I don't actually have a location. That is my dream.
Oh.
My dream, I'll just put it out to the universe, is
yes.
I would love to have a little bakery that employs other people with disabilities and Down syndrome. And I would call it Miss A's Cookies, just like what I've been calling it all these years, and to offer employment opportunities for people with disabilities. And so right now it's just like you find me on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm located in Burnaby, and you can pick up here. It's just my little home bakery, I guess you could say. I don't have a brick and mortar yet, but that is the dream.
That's the dream. Absolutely. That sounds awesome. I know somebody in Chilliwack, she bakes, she does pies, and she rents somebody's kitchen, professional kitchen. That's because she couldn't afford a whole, a location that included everything in it, but so she gets to rent somebody's.
Yeah.
And last year we were doing just for the pure pleasure of it, we did some cupcakes, and she allowed us to bake cupcakes out of there, and we were just handing them out to the general public. It was so much fun just to do it. Switching gears again, because I like to do that. You were employed. That's okay. Good. You're employed at e.com, COMM 911. So what's that?
Ecom. I am a 911 operator, so I could save your life.
Well, I didn't understand when I said e.com. Like, I didn't understand that was 911.
It's actually e-com.
E-com, because we just see 911, So, okay. So how long have you been there?
Oh, a very long time. Like, they opened their doors in 97. So I've been there since then, and doing various different things there, but primarily as a 911 operator.
Right. And so tell me, what is it that you enjoy doing about that job?
It is a very different job, and it can be stressful at times, but I think for a lot of people who don't understand, who are, maybe calling in, it's not always the stress that you think. It's, those true emergency calls are not every call. Maybe it's only 10 or 20% of the calls. but it's, what I get out of it is I actually really enjoy talking to people. I like being able to help them, because often people, they're just looking for some guidance. I think they call us because I feel like sometimes we're the problem solvers of the world, because when they don't know an answer to something, well, there'll be somebody there at 911 or on the non-emergency line who can help me. So I've trained lots of people over the years, and I said, even though this might not be a police matter where we would send the police out, see if there's a way that you can actually help the person. Like maybe it's just a phone number that they need to call. Okay, this is who you need to contact, or this is what you need to do, because often that's just why people are calling, is they just need some guidance because they don't know where else to turn. But I like to be able to help people. I think all of us started in that profession with that same intent, is I want to help people. I want to help my community. I want to make a difference. Some days it's a lot harder than others, but most days it can feel, fairly rewarding.
Right. Is there any kind of a call that would stand out? I mean, you wouldn't mention anybody's name or anything, but is there anything that stands out? Maybe an unusual.
Well, I've had, oh gosh, I think I've had every single call that you can imagine. Some obviously not so great. And unfortunately, those are kind of the ones that stand out. Is, I have had an active shooter call before, and that was very scary, because during that call, I thought, I am not trained for this. Right. This is like so beyond me. But I knew that during that moment that I had to use every tool in my toolkit that I had to get the police there on, get them there safely, get the right information and get the appropriate help. It was the most scary, probably one of the most scary calls that I've ever had. But, everyone survived, thankfully, even the suspect. And, it just, it's one of those calls that sticks in your head, because initially the way it came in was that it came in from ambulance, not normally from the caller, because the caller who was calling, when we answer police, fire, ambulance, well, the person had been shot. So of course they're asking for ambulance, but ambulance isn't going in until it's safe. That's the police job first. Okay. People don't realize that. They're not, ambulance isn't coming in to save you until they know that it is safe to do so. So that was a challenge there, is that it was coming through ambulance first. They're trying to give assistance over the phone to help the person who had been shot. I'm trying to get information to catch the perpetrator who's still running down the hallway shooting. It was a very dynamic and scary situation, but thankfully it all ended okay. So I guess that would probably be one of my standout calls.
Have you ever had any like really young children call? Because sometimes you hear about that, their mother's laying on the floor and this little kid can hardly talk, but they know enough to call. They've been trained to call 911 by their parents, I guess, Have you ever anything like that?
Oh, yes. We get young kids all the time. And, you just try to ascertain what their emergency is, kind of get down to their level, is speaking. And generally kids are pretty good, actually, because, they're, not as excited, I guess, for lack of a better word, than maybe an adult would be in the course of the situation. They're generally more black and white. They'll tell you exactly what's going on, what they need. They might not necessarily have the vocabulary to tell you that, but usually you can get most of the information from it. But nowadays, with everything being a cell phone, not a lot of people have a landline anymore. It does make it harder for us to find people. Like cell sites only give approximate location. And if you're way up in the mountains, because we have had, people who are lost, and then it's actually bouncing off another mountain, not where they are. It looks like they're way over here, but in fact, they're not. They're at another location. So that's the one thing is for people, is they really need to know their location, because it takes time for us to, we can see the approximate location when they call in on a cell phone, but it's not exact. And, and if they're calling from home, then there's some more background work that has to get done. We have to track their cell phone number. We have to ask whatever cell phone company it is to give us the information. So that all takes time. Mm-hmm. So if you're able to at least tell us where you are, you'll get help faster.
Yeah, very good. Well, we're just about out of time. So it's been really good, but just on camera, I'm going to just say goodbye to the audience. Thank you for everybody for listening. You've been talking to or listening to Mary Cardle, and I'm going to share her information. So if you want to order cookies for which is for a fundraiser for the Down syndrome, what's it called?
Resource Foundation.
Resource Foundation.
The Down Syndrome Resource Foundation, and I specifically fundraise for the Run Up for Down Syndrome, which is happening the first Sunday in June.
Oh, okay. Oops, sorry, I forgot to turn my phone down. And also, she has her podcast. So I'm going to share that. T21mom.com.
Thank you.
I'll make sure you can see it when under her name. So thank you everybody for watching the show, and I hope you continue to do so. And subscribing would be nice, but I don't pressure anybody into doing anything. But share. Okay, everybody share. Take care, everyone, and peace out.
Peace out. Thank you.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.